listening to the questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the questionnaires.
I've just started.
Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The questionnaire.
Get your comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
Why do you have that look on your face? Your mortal enemy ruling hell doesn't enrage you? No, man, because I ain't going there. I'm on a quest. That's what's up.
Are watching this show
Yeah, I'll do editing.
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial together, y'all.
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here, right here, right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All right, it's probably actually right here, right here, right. It's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a whipping discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
9.
20.
9.
20%.
9.
All right.
9.
He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then because it'll show in your order.
Yeah,
right?
9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the questionnaire. I am the Unknown Factor, a.k.a. that Wade Wilson of hip-hop. But, you know, we ain't talking hip-hop. We're talking comics, because it's what we do. Well, we normally talk comics. Sometimes we talk, like, comics, like high school teachers and voice actors and whatever, man. There's all kinds of stuff. Go check it out. It's been a pleasure, right? But I'll tell you, somebody who's really, really helped upgrade the questionnaire and the way that it looks, even already made the layout for this episode. Like, man, Shiro, you smoking. Now I need to get you descriptions. I'm working on it.
Yes, please.
I know.
I enjoyed the show, but I will not watch several 2-hour-long shows just to write down a little resume. I'm not in school anymore.
I know I need to clip through the ones that I got and then the ones that I got and then I'm actually like, look, I was editing one before we even jumped up on this because we got Jason DeHart coming up. You can check that out a couple episodes back, man. And then we got was it Jason? It was Jason. Yeah, it was Jason. We got into the creating literature through reading or creating literature or creating literacy and teaching empathy through learning through graphic novels and comics. That's not the exact quote, man. I got that wrong. I'm actually in the middle of editing that. I might be wrong. It might be. I'm hoping I'm not screwing up guest names, man. There's been so many people over here, and I can't even keep them all straight because that's what we do. It's like a bunch of roaches, and we're just gonna keep spreading, ladies and gentlemen, comic book news. Yeah, with Jono D in the house.
Howdy.
Yeah. Well, you're not I didn't prep him. I'm like, I used to prep. I need to start remembering to prep people. Like, bro, it's going to be like you're coming down the ring ready to get in the steel cage kind of intro. Because that's what I like to do. Because that's what I think is important. Artists need representation like that. I don't think they have the representation like that they should. Because they are the ones that bring us the entertainment that end up for so many different mediums at this point. But what I'm going to get into is we was talking about, firstly, if you're reading comics in the can, make sure you're not using your comic as toilet paper. Also make sure that you are reading your comic and then setting it down when you're going to deal with your business and then washing your hands before you pick it back up. Let's be real clear with that. But if your toilet paper is so terrible that you're forgetting or you're confusing it with your comic book, man, firstly, I'm really sorry. But apparently Jono doesn't buy that cheap toilet paper anymore, but I want to know, like, you getting that recycled toilet paper, or you just spreading more plastic in the world? Your Roach ain't gonna be nice at you, man.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna begin, huh?
We're gonna begin with stories about your end.
That's all I can.
I did warn you.
If you want to know why this started this way, go to subscribe to the Patreon for $2 a month and hear the chicanery beforehand. But yeah, man, I mean, really. Like, you buy an expensive toilet paper, doesn't that have more of an impact on the environment? My brain forgot the word environment. That's pretty bad.
Sure it does. It's a little more prestigious. Certainly more comfortable now. As I said before, like, you work your way up to the good toilet paper.
But but my point is, doesn't the good toilet paper, do you think it causes more waste in society?
Depends on how much you use, right? You don't need to overdo it. But
So are you saying you're a folder, not a water?
We'll get to actual questions soon, I promise.
He's like,
But now
how
I
did
want to
this
know.
Jono's just sitting here thinking, like, I came on to talk about comics. Why are we talking about how I fold my TP? Because it's important. Because you're right. Like, I think a lot of people waste just by wadding a bunch up, man. And then people are like, well, if you fold it, you might poke through. First off, how hard are you wiping your butt where you're poking through the paper? All right, let's get in, like. So do you fold, Jonah? I'm asking a serious question. I want to know.
Yep.
All right. That's right. You should, man. Right? For real. Look, Ronald T. Roach, I guarantee he appreciates that. Right? He does. Now, with that, man, I want to say, when I actually had time to read your comic before you came on the show. You don't know? That's kind of impressive, because there's, like, sometimes I don't, and yeah. But I sat down and read it, right? And when
it's not one of his strong suits.
Well, look, because you don't
have that problem yet. You don't have to ad lib.
Dude, I'm fine at ad libbing. It's a skill of mine. But I will say, when I started to get into this comic and initially reading it, it took a turn I didn't expect. You know, as far as with the message that it went with. What made you decide to take something that sort of started out like kind of on a Roger Rabbit level and decide to turn it into that message like that, man? Because I think that's very intriguing.
Yeah, I'm glad it surprised you. That's really comforting to hear too. You know, as an artist, you don't want to make things that are too predictable. Oh, this didn't really go anywhere I didn't expect it to. It was about trying to reach people about events and issues that I thought were important, and using the comic book medium as an alternative to do that. There's lots of comic books out there that have, where the threats are fictitious threats or otherworldly threats. I'm happy to give it to those creators. For me, the issues in the comic, I don't want to say exactly what they are. I want people to read it and come across it themselves as well. But there are important issues that I think need to be under more discussion.
I think that's the greatest understatement that's ever been made on this show, Jonah. Unless somebody looked at me and been like, "No, man, you're fine," then it might be that one. But I'd probably be the only one that would subjugate that statement, as far as because you're right, it does need to be something that's very much on the table. But now you're like, I don't want to give away any of it because I want people to read the comic, and you definitely should go read this comic. Firstly, I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. And like I said, I thought it was a very interesting twist. Now you say you don't want me to get into the twist, because I kind of wanted to get in that a little bit more. But fine, let's get into another twist, right? Because like Shiro read your questionnaire earlier. She's like, yes.
We're gonna get into another twist.
That's all we do over here, man. It's a quest. If a quest doesn't include many great twists and turns, then it wasn't a proper quest. That's my opinion.
Quest.
Yeah, oh, dude, we do way too many side quests over here. That's okay. What are you gonna do, right? But like I said, no, man. Like, dude, look. The main road is typically no fun. All right, it's all the side roads that's got all the interesting things on them. I've learned that in 41 years of life and just going around. But like I said, when Shiro was going,
You're younger than me. Thought we were the same age, but you're a little younger. Hard to tell, huh? I'm adorable.
Well, I'll tell you what wasn't adorable, Shiro. You're all like, Rafael. Yeah, that's right. That's the best ninja. Y'all are wrong.
Your favorite Donna?
Yeah, you started a big fight about
I
that.
did. That's not the best Ninja Turtle, man. It's Mikey, right? I want to know because when me and Shiro were having this discussion, there was something going on in my head that was far deeper than I ever said because that's how my
It was the
brain
face
is.
that threw at it.
Well, it's the fact if you look at the Ninja Turtles, I think if you really think, I think it says something about a person dependent upon which turtle they pick.
Oh, be careful what you say next, Jay.
Why?
Because me and Jono like the same turtle.
Well, that's fun.
That interview can
That was
stop
one of the
right here,
questions.
you know?
Forget about that.
Well, would you guys not disagree that I think people pick a turtle based on their life experiences and how their outlook is to a certain degree? Because if you look at those four characters, they're all very hopeful characters. They're all characters that are trying to be very positive. But they are four characters that go about in very different manners. You know? Would you not agree?
I would agree.
Okay. So why Raphael, Jonah?
I think because he likes to withdraw, and that kind of resonated with me when I was a kid. I came from a big family.
But he withdraws and then punches people in the face.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the violent aspects of Raphael, not so much anymore. I had some tantrums when I was a kid, really young, but I've calmed down a lot since then. Yeah, he's part of a family, but he depends on them, but he also needs to withdraw times. Like he wants to be independent, but he can't survive on his own. He can't admit that he needs. I think that's what I relate to.
Intriguing. Intriguing. And it makes me realize why a lot of artists could answer that particular turtle because I think a lot of artists are more introverted. You know,
Yeah.
there are examples that I did whatever. Look, that's a different discussion, Cyril. I'm not getting into that right now. Right. So, what initially got you to decide to get into art to the point where you started doing animation and fine art, and then to translate that and decide to do a comic book? Because we just had Michael Schwartz on, who was actually a director for visual productions and for like even the SpongeBob movie. And he decided to go into comics. So what made you to switch to that route?
I started out in comics actually. So my grandfather, who's an artist, painter, he pursued art, but not he didn't pursue it as a career. He was my first artistic mentor, and he saw that I was really into comics and cartoons, and mostly comic strips, specifically comic strips. Like my impression of comics when I was younger, um, it wasn't until I was a teenager until I set foot in an actual comic book store. Prior to that, it was all comic strips. So I thought that if you liked the cartoony stuff, that you read comic strips, and if you liked the superhero or more realistic stuff, that you read comic books. I thought that was the distinction. But now there's anyway. When I finally went to a comic book store, I saw comics can be everything, and I had that epiphany. But until then, that's what was my impression. So my grandfather and I, it's been the summers with him, and showed me how to make comic strips, and I had a character of my own who makes an appearance in the book that I just published. And that's how I started out with comic strips. I thought I was going to be a comic strip artist. And then the animation thing came because I always loved watching animated cartoons, and I really, oh, well, if I go to school to become an animator and learn animation, that's going to teach me how to draw. Because you have to not just make appealing drawings, but you have to make them move, you have to make them cohesive, and you have to make things that are you have to draw in a sculptural way. You have to draw in a way that has form, three-dimensional form to it. So my interest in comics kind of disappeared for a couple of years. I got like really heavy into animation. I thought I was going to be an animator. Worked in animation for a short amount of time, but what I really missed was drawing. So much of it, by the time I graduated, was really heavy on computer programs, and it's still kind of that way. But there's a lot of 2D animation that's still being done today. It's digital. But I really miss drawing. I really miss traditional drawing and painting. So I painted for several years, like the last 15 years, mostly and painting. And getting back to comics, what happened actually, what promoted it is the plan was always to put out a comic book and get back into comics, but I didn't know the story I wanted to tell. So that's what stopped me. I was like, okay, what am I passionate about? What's a story that I can create that I know that I can see through to the end? Because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And what happened in 2022, at the beginning of 22, my mother passed on. So that was kind of
Condolences.
big moment. Yeah, and I thought, okay, maybe we don't have as much time, and I think we do. So I did some, looking inwards and said, okay, what are some projects, some lifetime goal projects, career milestones that I do, and it was always comic. And I had some ideas written down, and then I realized, oh, this idea that I could expand that into. And then that became my focus. So I started that, early 2022, working on the writing for the comics. Spent a couple of months just writing the story, getting that as concise as I could. 2.5 years just making the book in between other things that I had going.
So wait, Roland T. Cockroach took 2 years for the process of the art?
Yeah. So the first year was the 2022 was the script, getting all the layouts done, and then 2023 getting all the art finalized, and then 2024 first half was getting all the pages painted, in the digital color.
Did you take a look at this, Shiro?
I only have the text of the questionnaire.
I forwarded you that email. You should have them both.
Okay, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I only say because Jono walked away. She's got it, man. He just walked off on us. Interview's over.
Bye.
I had to, sorry.
I look up and he's gone.
I had to charge my phone.
Oh, fair enough. It happens, man. No, I think like the art on this is very intriguing. As far as how you've blended it.
Sorry, I didn't catch the beginning of that yet.
I said the art is very intriguing as far as how you've blended it.
That's why it took so damn long.
Yeah.
What I envisioned, it took a year longer than I thought it would. As much as I calculated.
I think it's understandable looking.
It was a visual style. I just didn't want to compromise, but it took a lot of work, twice as much work.
I believe that. What made? Oh, go ahead, man.
But what maybe choose the style? Is that what you?
Oh well, no. I thought you were getting ready to say something, but I'm just. What made you decide to do the blend as far as I
Because
don't
I'd
like.
never really seen anything like it before in a comic.
Well, and the
Um,
interesting thing.
yeah, the
Oh,
idea was always to make a comic that looks like a live action animated film. And there's other comics that I've seen that had real people and cartoons in it, um, but it wasn't done in the way that it felt like a live action animated film. So, for instance, like the Roger Rabbit comics or the characters are outlined. Like the human characters are outlined in inks. The cartoon characters are outlined. All the backgrounds are delineated. Everything. It looks like somebody drew it rather than somebody filmed it. There's no outlines in the real world, right? Like there's no outlines. Even power lines. Power lines aren't lines. Like they're thin cylindrical tubes. So nothing is outlined in nature. So you have to paint it or create the art in such a way that there's no outlines to make it look naturalistic. So the only characters, the only thing outlined in the book that I created is cartoon characters, and they really stand out, but they stand out deliberately. Be that
oh yeah,
dichotomy.
yeah, very, very much they stand out. What I gotta ask about one thing though in reading this. It says you know your chances of being born a cartoon character.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that was something that because there's several movies where cartoon characters and human characters exist, but it never really explains the circumstances of where the cartoon characters came from. So I was always like, okay, well, are they born or are they created? Somebody draw them? Like, how did they get there? Right?
I
So
need I need you to elaborate then, because within this book it doesn't really elaborate beyond that as far
it
as
doesn't
what.
elaborate beyond that. It just says that they're born. So the way that I kind of presented it in the universe I created is that cartoon characters are just incredible anomalies. Sort of like the X-Men from the X-Men, where they're humans born with the rare genetic superpower or something. So there's cartoons characters that live among us, but they're incredibly rare.
That's my problem. I get it now. That's my problem. All right, I've called it cartoon
And
plenty
I
in my
didn't want to
life.
get down to the exact percentage because I know people will calculate it. And well, Jono, according to the percentage you said, well, there should be millions of cartoon, So it's incredibly rare. Okay, let's just leave it at that. It's incredibly rare.
It's a comic. Don't involve math.
Hey, whatever. Jason DeHart has used comics to teach math. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
you
there
can.
was this game called Math Blaster when I was a kid. The video game. It was a PC game. Teach math. Fun.
I think I just
Can be
it's.
done well.
The thing. There's this part of me, Jonah, that's like, you said you didn't want to spoil the topic that you get into with this comic, but I wanted to get into that topic, and you took the topic off the board when you said that, because I understand. I'm a fan of Doctor Who. No spoilers, right? So that's fine. But now we can't discuss that and whatever. Yeah. You
So
know. Yeah. Because it did. You should. Because it's a very, the thing that you cover in the comic. It is something that's very, very topical, and I think some of the ways you cover it, as such, with the bird at the end, and I'll leave it at that. To leave that, I think that's cryptic enough. You know, um, I think it was very intriguing as far as how you played that to that. And how you involved in the story. How much research? Like, did you find yourself needing to put in research in this, or was it just pretty
yeah,
much? Uh,
yeah. That's why the script took a couple months. I looked at all kinds of things. There's a part with a seagull, and I had to learn out like, okay, what do female seagulls look like? What do male seagulls look like? What's the distinction? What's the feathers, like right down to the specific breed of seagull. And by the way, there's no bird called a seagull. Like gull is a subcategory of bird.
Yeah,
Western
because
gull.
you have the seagull, they fly over the sea, and then you have the ones that fly over the bay, the bagels.
The bagel. I'm just picturing a bagel with wings. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, especially on the main character as a cockroach. So there's a lot of research with that, and sometimes you end up with things that their way into the script, like you didn't anticipate. I'm like, oh, it's cool to fit. It'd be cool to fit that in there now. This one little hidden gem, so that people that know a lot about a subject read the book.
And for
Well,
everybody
it's
who
cool
wants to
that he
check
put
this
that in
out,
there.
yeah, for everybody who wants
Sorry?
to check this out, there's a link right in the description. You can go check out Jono's work. I want to let you all know that. So if you really want to, if you hear this and you're like, this is intriguing, and they're being really cryptic, and Jonah may be doing. Sorry, that's funny. I'm the unknown factor, and somebody may
I
be
took it
cryptic.
away.
Whatever. But that's the
Yeah,
other thing. How did you
there's
decide what characters you were going to use? Because like I said, you have very, very few cartoon characters in this, I'll say.
yeah.
And then Death.
Yeah, that was a fun character. That was a
Yeah.
hard character to kind of figure out. I decided to make the character very deadpan and matter of fact. He's very
I think
impartial, is how I would describe him.
I mean, I think if you'd been Death, even just for the span of human history, and not even saying like if it was I think you would become that way. I don't think you'd have a choice. I just think that's how it would make you, because if that's your job and you have to do it, at a certain point you're gonna get real jaded, and just these things happen,
See them
man.
all at this point.
Yeah,
He was an interesting character, though, because the thing about Death is I wanted the character to be a realistic skeleton, not a cartoony skeleton. And he's just his face, he's just a skull. So there's no muscle tissue, no eyebrows, there's eyeballs, anything. So it was an intriguing bit of acting to try to make this character convey something, but without the use of facial expressions. That's off the table. It's just a blank plate. So you really had to push, the gestures and subtle tilts of the head, how he leaned in, everything to make it look like he's actually saying, the dialogue. And that came from animation, making very purposeful, exact drawings.
Yeah.
Character.
Stop taking my questions away, Jonah, because I'm serious. You took the one about the thing about the end of your book, and then you took the one about I was about to ask as far as in doing that, did the animation and did fine art as far as anything like your fine art training affect any way in your storytelling of your art? Because obviously it's going to help you, making. I would hope fine art training helps you make fine art. Otherwise, I don't think you did the fine art training right. You know what I mean? It's like going to boot camp and coming out and being like, dude, I can't do a sit up. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, how's that possible?
Like, seriously. You should just do 6 weeks at boot camp, dude. What? Yeah. But did you find anything in fine art that has help you refine the storytelling aspect? Because you covered the animation part, whatever.
Not like it's not a lot of work.
Aspect would have been the application of realistic light, shadows, textures, color theory.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
anatomy, all that played into it. So
yeah, but
everything I've ever learned has gone into the book, whether it was I learned something from fine art, or animation, or painting, all of it. So this book kind of felt like accumulation of like a final project, a career, thus far. Everything's gone into it.
Do you, in doing the art, were there times where you had to switch something you were doing from the aesthetic, just this needs to look this way purpose, to make something work for the story?
Probably fiction of the cartoon characters themselves. I made a decision when I was combining the two worlds, the cartoon world, human live action world one day. I made the distinction to not put too many shadows, highlights on the cartoon characters, because once you blend them too much, once you over render them, then they no longer look cartoony. They look merged with the human world. They're supposed to look distant. So I did the first 4 pages like fully, and I just kind of worked on the rest of the pages. I didn't work on necessarily chronologically, but the first 4 pages, that was kind of the test, just to see if it would even work, like what I was planning in my head. Okay, putting all the pieces together, I'm like, okay, can this work? Can this work? And it did work. I think it worked. People have told me it worked. A live action animated film in a comic, all for a fraction of what it would cost to film it. That's the beauty of it. They have to make it look good for that one panel. you don't have to film it. You don't have to draw it over. You don't have to actually. The characters don't actually move.
It's funny that you say that, because we just had Olivia Briggs on with Dave co-host. It was a lovely conversation talking about her upcoming book, Kill Train. But she was someone that was a writer for TV, and she said that was the main thing when she went into comics. It was the fact that, as far as the change, one of the things that was the most positive is you don't have budgetary constraints. You know what I mean? I mean, you can literally you can draw anything. It doesn't, like, you can draw 100 people, and you don't have to go get 100 extras or have them rendered as they do them now, which is so crazy. I think studios ought to hire 100 people. If you want 100 people in the shot, go get 100 people in the shot. I don't want CGI. I'm gonna be picky and old, like whatever. All right, and if you need like 100 people flying, go CGI, because you ain't doing that. But whatever. I'm just saying.
That's a lot of harnesses.
Yeah.
Um.
That's a stunt coordinator's nightmare.
Oh my God.
Roger got tangled again.
Look! All I know.
Get back down.
Tom Cruise would Tom Cruise, if he ever hears this idea, he'll probably be like, "Let's do it." And then
let's do it money.
No, Tom Cruise.
Try anything once. Let's do it. I'll try anything once.
I sometimes wonder what that man wouldn't try once with some of the things I've seen, to be real honest. Like,
So my friend Kelly, his name is Kelly Tyndall. He's a comic book artist, and I took a course from him 12 years ago, and that was kind of the start of it, where I really learned about the advantages. He called it $1 billion budget, and this light bulb went off in my head, and I was just like, oh yeah, wow, that's so advantageous, with limited by what you're willing to draw. I think that's why so many comics have special effect, like science fiction or sci-fi or fantasy story elements, right? Have an unlimited special effects budget.
Oh yeah, super strengths, laser, heat vision.
Yeah, and that's why we're seeing so many comic book movies now too, because it took many decades for the film industry to catch up with what comics could do. Right now, you can create any special effect and make it look believable. For many, many years, that was not a reality. You couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's like if you go back to even the very first Blade film, that very last fight scene between Snipes and I want to say Deacon. That annoys me a little bit. I cannot remember his name right now because I'm a fan, but yeah, Deacon Frost is the character. So him, Blade and Deacon Frost, when they're fighting, if you look where they're doing like the whole blood part, and I mean you could tell it's dated for what it was. Also, Blade is not the very first rated R comic book film from Marvel. I want to point that out for everybody out there. A little bit of trivia, if you can name in the comments what it was, I'll be amazed. Or because we've actually discussed it on a past show, but it was not Blade. I promise. Even though, huh?
I can't think of what it is.
It's not Blade. Do you want to know, Jonah?
Struggling to come up with what it is.
Here.
Okay. First person to come up with it in the comments, I will send you a copy of my comic. We'll do that. We'll do a giveaway.
Well, there you go.
That's the trivia question.
There's a giveaway on the show. If you can figure out what the first R-rated comic book film was that wasn't Blade, and it's from Marvel, I'll give you that clue. You get a free copy. You get a free copy specifically. Yeah, you get a free copy of Jono. It's the
comic book movie.
The very first R-rated comic book film was a Marvel film. I assure you, man. But the funny thing is, I think if you Google R-rated comic book movie, I'm pretty sure it'll tell you it was Blade, and that's not the truth.
Right. But you're gonna have to do some digging, folks.
Yeah, y'all really might. Now, speaking of some digging, though, all right. Thanks for the great segue. You wanted to you ran this on Kickstarter, and I know that's that thing's a beast, and it's crazy. I think I heard recently it's turned into the 4th biggest comic book publishing. Like, it's the 4th.
Is that a fact?
I don't quote me on that. Somebody said it recently on the show. I don't even remember who. We do a lot of quests over here, but I know there's a massive amount of comics published through Kickstarter.
Yeah. Not only is there a massive amount of comics published, it is the #1 most funded category on Kickstarter.
Comics?
Yeah, #1 most funded category. Consistently most funded category.
All I know is it was really cool was when I had Robert on and me and him were sitting and chatting, and literally it went ding, and I was like, was that your Kickstarter just got funded? And he was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, it was. That literally happened while he was on the show. And I was like, that's a first and pretty cool. But what's been your experience with that? Because obviously, when you go to do a comic on Kickstarter, I think you can't just throw it on there and walk away like I do with this show, which is terrible.
Oh, it's work.
Walk away. Mon cul, walk away. The way you work on the show.
Just getting the page all set up. It is a sales page. You're putting your work out there, but you're also putting yourself out there. You make a good impression. And you want to show people that you're reliable, that you've done your research, and people to have confidence is a ask. They're giving you their money up front for something that you're going to give them later. And Kickstarter waives all responsibility if the Kickstarter person who sets up the Kickstarter, if they don't fulfill their it's not Kickstarter's fault, right? They don't take responsibility for that. So it was the very first Kickstarter I've ever done, and I took, if you want to know the truth, I took a course on how to set it up, and specifically with comic book artists in mind. It was called Comics Launch, and they have not paid me to promote this.
This questionnaire not sponsored by Comics Launch.
Shout out.
But if Comics Launch would like to sponsor the questionnaire, just you're more than welcome to just get a hold of us.
But I took their course on how to set up a funded Kickstarter, a successful Kickstarter, and I learned a lot. Like I'm super happy that I did take it. Information that I wouldn't come up with, had access to, wouldn't have thought of. It's a case of you don't know what you don't know. but you can always find out. So I had a lot of people, compliment me on the page and be like, "Wow, like it's really professional. Like this looks great. Like this." I was like, "Okay, good, good."
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can't. Yeah, but it's a lot more complicated than just making everything front loading it, pushing the active button, and then walking away. You have to tell people it exists. You have to drive traffic to it.
Hmm.
And it's the premise of Kickstarter for anybody listening who's not familiar with it. It's a limited time premise. So you'll put up a project in typically 30 days, but not always. You can set whatever time you want. You have a limited time to support the project. You set a goal amount. If the project breaches your amount, then your project's funded. So that's how it works. So I set a goal amount I knew I could reach, but I didn't know how long it would take me to. It took me a week to reach my goal. And then my campaign was on for 4 weeks, so then I had 3 more weeks to just promote it, make more sales, and shit, and get interested in it.
How and because there's so many things about Kickstarter, man, that is just kind of really, really intriguing. And I think one of the more intriguing is the what's it called? The perks for when, it's like, all right, well,
Stretch goals.
the
Stretch goals.
yeah, thank you. Stretch goals.
First, after you're funded.
Yeah, it's like you've got, how important do you think the stretch goals are in the whole process of kickstarting?
Yeah. I didn't really have any stretch goals for mine. Not so much, but I did have additional perks or rewards. Same thing. That I released after the campaign won. So I had some core rewards that were available day one. Later on in the program, offset. So each week I released a new. Okay, now you can get this. This is now to keep some interest up. It was because it was also my first Kickstarter. I didn't know how much I could raise, so I think that was part of my decision making, offering or focusing so much on stretch goals. It was just about trying to reach as many people that be interested in them.
Do you looking at that? Sure, you type really hard. That's all I'm saying. Type really hard. Stop typing aggressive. Like, she's a Pete. Like, man, break the
I just have a
keyboard.
really good microphone because my keyboard is kind of not really one of those clackety ones.
You can make anything click, you hit it hard enough, right? So,
excuse me, I'm taking notes for the show later because somebody won't send me descriptions.
thank you, Shiro. Which is going to be funny. That's going to end up making it to where she gets this graphic done, and this show is going to be out before a bunch of shows that I just mentioned on this show, and then it's going to be like, what happened? I'll be like, look, it's the way things run over here sometimes. It's screw it. Whatever. What are you going to do?
I'm messing with the timeline.
She really is like, this is the sacred timeline, Shiro. Stop getting it up. All right?
That's
I'm
my
gonna have.
fault again.
She's gonna. Dude, I got so much crap I'm gonna have to do because of what she's doing right now, Jono. You don't even know. It's like, this is just sheer madness, man. So I'm curious in that. I mean, because you obviously you said it was 2.5 years for you to get this completed.
Yeah. I mean, it was self-funded endeavor.
Okay.
I worked on it in between other work and other projects that we're doing. So that's why it took so long. Part of the reason.
So,
the funds that I raised on Kickstarter were to were the funds to print the book, so I could print hard copies of the book.
Hey.
If I was trying to compensate myself on the time I spent on the book, Yeah, it'd be thousands. It'd be a lot more than what I was asking on the Kickstarter.
Um,
I was just trying to get the book.
with that in
Yes.
mind, what do you have anything that you're working on next?
Yeah, I've been asking myself that question because it's weird to spend 3 years of your life on something and then I don't need to on that anymore. Change.
Well, I mean,
My next
you could certainly continue this story, I'd say, with ease. There's a number of places you could take it.
yeah, I left it. People who read the book will see that it can continue on in ways. I did it that way deliberately. Like the book it's a number one issue, but it's also acts as a one shot, and I did it that way in case that there is never, so that if I got so jaded by this, just like, oh God, I'm never doing this again, that I wasn't leaving people with some sort of cliffhanger, wasn't leaving them with a story that was unresolved. They didn't have to contend the next couple years of my life. Jono, when we gonna find out what happens? When we gonna find out what happened? You know what I mean? So, yeah, and I also wasn't sure if I had an audience for this. If people would be interested in this story. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do this in such a way that it's a self-contained story, the potential for more. See what the vibe is like. See if there's interest. Um, based on that, maybe create some stories.
I mean, it is definitely a very intriguing story, but man, look, if you'd have left that at a cliffhanger and then told me I had to wait 2 years, I'd have been like, dude, I'm good.
Yeah, that's another reason too.
Like, I'm good. By the time that book comes out, I'm gonna completely forget about the fact that I've read the first one because of how many other things. Like, I might be like, oh, I remember that character. I read something with that thing. I don't remember what it was. It was something to do with something, and So I think there is that problem. Um, so if you, do you think if you decided to approach and do another Roland T. Roach, that's funny. That rhymed. I did not mean for that. Um, but would
I
you, do
would I
you,
would enlist some help if I did
that,
a second
yeah.
issue. Yeah, if that's your question. Yeah, so that it wouldn't take an eternity to get another issue. But each issue that I want to make, and I have a story that I wrote down some story notes and some rough, script scenes, a couple scenes. So there is a story that I like that could work for a second issue. As to when it will come out, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd like there to not be such a long gap between the stories. But one thing I do want to make consistent is that each story, each issue, acts as a standalone story. So you can just pick that book up. It has a beginning, middle, and end. They'll get
And yeah,
satisfying story.
yeah, I think that's key. Shiro, ask him some artsy question.
Oh dear, I'm put on the spot again.
I,
Maybe on your shirt. Pattern.
huh?
What is the pattern on the shirt that you're wearing, Shiro?
Oh, her.
Yeah, is it maple leaves?
Oh, snowflakes. The
Oh,
other Canadian staple.
Oh,
If you're asking for under it, it's Mickey Mouse.
yeah.
Because I'm 12 on the inside. And on the height, I'm 5'2". I'm a tiny little thing. So artistically speaking, what software did you use to make the comic?
Software. Paints, acrylic paints.
Oh my god, you're really quiet on my end right now.
A drawing table. And digital software, I used Photoshop.
Oh, Photoshop. That could be like another show for 3 hours. I am not a fan.
Yeah, the hardest part.
I'm not judging you, though. You can get it to work for you. All the power to you.
Yeah, I'd never. I decided to do my cleanup digitally, as opposed to inking it traditionally. And that was a steep learning curve. Like that took way longer than I anticipated.
Oh yeah, I know the transition.
Yeah, trying to get the lines that I wanted. I don't have a Cintiq. I just have a like Nikon. Yeah, trying to get those fluid, thick and thin lines. The lines in the book are a little bit inconsistent in play. Yeah, that was one of the hard. Rest of it,
Oh,
no,
look, man.
Photoshop's great for.
All I know is many a questionnaire have been dropped over here. You can check them all out over at the Patreon. There's like 100 plus. There's a lot of people that have answered that questionnaire. Like I said, there's 3 different varieties now, so you don't even know who got what as far as I don't know half the time because Scott sends them out. But in all that time, man, favorite movie based on a comic book. Never got that answer. And that is a favorite of mine in being The Mask, right?
Oh, yeah, I
Right?
want to remember what I said.
It's have you read that comic?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
Did you
I
now
did read the. I
did
have
you
read all the Mask comics,
oh
including the Mask for President one.
I just read that recently, man. It's so I'm curious, what was your
Yeah,
first
including the
exposure?
original.
Was it the movie or the comic?
Well, my first introduction was definitely the movie. Yeah,
Alright.
I didn't know. I didn't know the Mask. The movie was based on a comic for many years.
And
And then the
speaking of
comic,
awkward
finding the
transition,
original comics, I wasn't able to do them, able to find them. I read it on a digital
relatable.
comics platforms. They had them. They had the Mask omnibus by
Omnibus.
omnibuses.
I like saying omnibuses.
So yeah, and I just binge read the 2 Mask omnibuses again, like stormed through it. Yeah, the comics are very different than the movie. Anyone who's never read them, the comics are a lot more violent.
That's putting it lightly.
You like
I
understatements.
do like the movie, even though the movie is very different than the comics. Like I appreciate them both in different ways. And I think they made the right choice with the movie. I don't think it would have been such a hit if they turned the movie into more angle.
I think and now hear me out, Johnny. You're right. At the time, there's no way you could have done a comic book accurate to where it was really feeding off the comic
No,
Mask at
no.
that time. Yeah, it
But
wouldn't
maybe
have
you
worked.
could now. Like I think
And
there's
then
an
again,
audience for it now.
there
At
was
the time,
a
no, it definitely would have.
there was a scene they cut out that was kind of a little too close to the comic,
Oh,
where
the scene with the reporter lady.
yeah, exactly. You know
Yeah.
what the one I mean.
Yeah, they have. It's I've got the special edition.
But I don't what?
So there's a scene that they cut out where the reporter lady, and if anybody complains that I'm spoiling a nearly 30-year-old movie, well, go and watch it.
It's 30. It's been out for 30 years. You had your chance, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
We're spoiling
I mean,
it.
come on, we
You
have the
had your
internet.
chance, okay?
And she betrays Stanley at Kiss. And she ends up, now I don't remember if she's being pushed or if she fell into a printing machine.
Oh, yeah.
In the final
I
cut,
think
she's
she's
okay,
thrown,
but
if I remember accurately, she's thrown into the machine. But
she's thrown, and
if I remember correctly.
I think at the end of the scene they were like doing that photocopier joke where her picture came out and she was like ah, and
Yeah, and she was like flattened by the printing press. Okay, I do remember that. It's been a long time since I've seen that, to be real honest. I think I've read Mask comics way more recently than I've seen the actual Mask film. But it is a phenomenal one. She's a freaking Pete, dude. You know, Jonah, you can tell you got part of a writer in you just by looking at the questionnaire you filled out. You know that?
I got really long-winded in some of the answers.
Not as bad as Dominic Mercier did. Much love to you, Dominic. But if you go look at Dominic's, it's like,
the questions, not a novel. Like, why did you give me this?
yeah, like I needed short, like just like not like here's half of my life story, man. Like, and that's fine. Like I said, it's available for all y'all over at the Patreon because we are not getting into all of this. Let's be clear.
Oh, you publish the questions that people answer on your Patreon.
Yeah. All you have to do is be a subscriber and you can check.
Perk.
Yeah, go over to the Patreon. All you got to do is subscribe. It don't cost you nothing, and you can check out all the pre-show questionnaires. As long as I'm gotten them all up at this point. There's over 100 up there now, though, and like I said, they get real entertaining. For $2 a month, you can watch this chicanery from before and after we start and end the show. And sometimes we talk about toilets and toilet paper and such. You know, it happens, right?
I mean, it's cute that you send a questionnaire to creatives and think you're getting 3-word answers.
Yeah. Oh.
We're introverts. We're not mute.
It's funny. I wanted to bring up this comparison, but I was like, but it's funny that that's your current favorite comic, Tony Fleece's Uncanny Valley.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I wanted to pick a comic that's like currently being published. I thought that was the nature.
I mean something that no, it's more like what is your current favorite comic, like because from when you were a kid to when you were an adult, because obviously I think that would change.
Okay.
But I think that's a great choice, man. Like I said, shout out to Tony. He's been on the show a couple times, man. You can go check out those past quests. We actually specifically got into Uncanny Valley with him, as well as everything else he's doing. But that and Army of Darkness. Tony's doing too much over there. But I think it's interesting you say that.
When he sleeps, turn on like 5 books at once.
Yeah.
Like outsource his sleep.
Yeah, I do believe it was 5 because he was doing Local Man with Tim, and then he had the Army of Darkness Forever, the Feral, the Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, and then I think there was another one.
If there was, I didn't pick it up. And I don't think because I picked up all 4 of those books. But I don't know. I'm sure he's got more coming out. And Feral's been phenomenal, but I think Uncanny Valley is very, very intriguing as far as are you up to date on that? Reading it?
Which one?
Uncanny Valley.
Okay. Yes, I am. Yeah. They're up to issue 6 just came out. 7 is coming out next month.
Is it 6?
On reserve. Yeah,
I feel like I've read.
There's 6 issues out.
Oh yeah, I feel like
it's interesting too because he was going to end it on the 6th issue, but then I guess by popularity they got the go ahead to do all 12 issues, which is what he had originally planned, but he was anticipating that he'd have to cut it short to 6. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, he actually said that on the show, and it was very much because it was out of all the books he was doing, it was the one that was getting the least traction because obviously, Feral plays off Stray Dogs, Army of Darkness plays off every Army of Darkness fan, and then Local Man with Tim did real well, so it was the one. So I am very happy to see he's continued it, man. What did you think of did you see that coming in issue 6, Jonah? Who the wizard was?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't see the plot twist come.
That's intriguing. All right. Would you be prone to use that character at a point in one of your stories with Roland T. Roach based on the fact that you very well could without anyone saying anything?
Yeah, you can now. Technically in the public domain. Maybe. I don't know. I think I'm more interested in showcasing the backstories of my own characters,
Well, I only say that specifically because of where the book ended up going. And isn't that kind of a symbol for consumerism to a certain degree.
Talking about Uncanny Valley.
Huh?
Still talking about Uncanny.
No, I'm talking about the wizard in Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will get the reference.
No, I mean, but if you put it in your book, as far as playing it like that Steamboat Willie is very much about consumerism, and consumerism is what causes a lot of things we do negative in this place that we call Earth.
Yeah.
You,
I guess there's some of that in my book too. There's some overlap with what Uncanny Valley and what I've been working on. That's very unintentional. I don't know Tony. I've never talked to him. I've never been in communication with him. When I put out my book, I didn't learn about Uncanny Valley until they were already on the second issue. So
well,
reading it and being like, it really was more or less coincidental. I had this idea of doing this live action, animated comic, and then Tony and Dave, they're kind of like taking that same angle. I was just like, wow, there's already a team doing it. It's really good. This is awesome. Like, I want to see where this goes.
But I'm about, and I'd have to go back and check the quest because it was a conversation that we had with Tony as far as when he had that idea. But there's no way you could be taking off of that, man, because this book took 2.5 years and you'd already had the script done and we're working on the art.
Exactly. That's
the time frame does not match to where there's any possibility that you were taking this from Uncanny Valley. It's completely a coincidence of two artists having an idea and doing it at the same point, and which I think is very interesting because I don't think that's a lot. You haven't seen a lot of that, especially original ideas done in comics. I mean, like you said, there are Roger Rabbit comics, there are Roger Rabbit comics, as well as I'm pretty sure there's some Cool World comics, if memory serves me proper.
Yeah, I have those as well.
So there are comics that took from where they had done that elsewise, but there aren't comics where they just did that and made their own story. I think yours and Tony's, are all honesty, are the only two that I can think of. There's probably some other out there. If anybody tells me they know every comic.
There is another comic that I knew about, but I have not read. My friend Christine told me about. Apologize because I forget the artist. It's an artist who I believe wrote and drew it. It's called Three Fingers, and it's about fictional. It's a satirical look on cartoon characters who are based off Disney, but they're not actually Disney characters. And I avoided reading it only because I was cautious that it might be too close to something. So I haven't read it, but I would like to read it at some point. There's also.
I just think that's intriguing, man. And I think it's funny, like you said, that you grew up on comic strips, and then when you walked into a comic book store, having that realization of comics can be everything.
Yeah.
How many people? Like, what percentage of people?
There's a lot of people that still don't, have that realization, right? They think it's all superheroes, right? I don't tell people I read comics, not because I'm embarrassed by it, but because by default, every time I tell people I read comics, like, they assume I'm into superheroes. And yeah, I read a couple, some of the superhero genre, but it's not really so much they go for it.
Well, what I started,
my biggest draw.
Yeah, what I started the show with certainly wasn't a superhero comic in I Hate Fairyland. I wouldn't. I don't know what. I don't even know what genre I would put I Hate Fairyland in. To be frank, I don't.
Where does that belong? It doesn't fit neatly in a box.
Well, because it doesn't. Because you could say it's not like a nice. It's not like a cartoony world. It's not really like a fantasy world. It's not. Yeah. I don't. Shiro,
looks like
you,
it's for kids, but it's definitely not for kids. Yeah.
Shiro, what genre do you think I Hate Fairyland is?
I have no idea. No, seriously.
Utopian fantasy. Or...
Wait, do you not know what I Hate Fairyland is?
I actually do. I just
Oh,
never
okay.
read it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Remember who you're talking to, buddy. Takes me 6 hours to the nearest comic book store.
God.
6 hours.
I'm a comic artist, but I am not a comic reader because I live in the middle of nowhere, and when I step out, all I hear is bang, 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 bang. So yeah.
What instrument was that? I'm from the Maritimes. I didn't get that reference.
Well, I usually we would use a fiddle, but it's not as funny as using a fake banjo.
It amazes me the number of people and the places that comics come from to in a certain degree, and I don't think people affect that. And I think that's what's funny. Like you said, everybody thinks it's tights, and I think that's because I wonder. I mean, because obviously the MCU blowing up like it did had a lot of effects on people and how they look at comics. Part of me wonders why The Walking Dead didn't have an effect. And I guess it's because they didn't Dave, who's another one of the co-hosts, says he has people walk into the store about once a week and they see Walking Dead and they go, "They made Walking Dead a comic book?" Which, yeah, that exactly. I mean, but at the same time, man, with me and you seen The Mask, and they didn't. I'm sure it says somewhere in the credits that that's a Dark Horse comic, but
Yeah.
Mm.
And in some movies based on comics, it's go out of their way to conceal it because people have all these preconceived notions what comics are, and that I'm not going to enjoy this movie.
Because comics are for kids,
Yeah,
cartoons are
yeah,
for
exactly.
kids. Yeah, watch Ninja Scroll once. See that opinion change.
Like Road to Perdition is a good example there, right? Based on a comic. Never really know. It's not out there. It's not.
I think I could probably name at least 3 or 4 films that I don't think if you watched them and had no knowledge, like From Hell, Road to Perdition is a great example. Two Guns is a great example. I said 3 or 4. Yeah, there's 3. And I think if you presented those to someone that had never read a comic and didn't tell them, and then you, after the film, you looked at them and go, "Hey, that was based on a comic book," they'd probably look at you like, well, man, they'd probably look at you and not believe you for a moment.
Yeah.
Like, shut up, you comic nerd. No, I was like, I know I'm a comic nerd. That's why I'm telling you what you just watched was based on a comic, man. It is funny how much that, even Lucifer actually is probably another great example. The television show, right? Because that was based on Neil Gaiman. It's crazy to think, man. And on that, it's funny. I think I look at your piece. You realize you've created something that would do really well, in my opinion. It's like a Saturday morning kind of cartoon. Well, when I say cartoon, I mean only the cartoon characters. The rest would have to be live action, obviously. But
Yeah.
you made something that I think if it could be made at a budgetable level, I don't know how possible that is. I do think as in that medium, it's just like, there are no Saturday morning cartoons anymore. I don't know why I say that, but as a cartoon, as a live action cartoon, I think it would work really well because it's something. It would have a what was the name of that cartoon back in the day on Cartoon Network? Billy
I bet I
and
know which one you're talking about, but the name's not coming to me either. Wasn't it the one with the kid who got a transplant from an animator, and with the transplant, he got all the animator's cartoon characters with him? The kid
no,
in his
that
the kid is
sounds
live action, but he's got the characters after him.
I need to know what that is, though, Shiro. I have no idea what that is. I'm talking about the one where it was two kids and they hung out with death.
Oh,
Billy and Mandy?
Yeah,
Pyramid
Billy and
Adventures of
Mandy.
Billy and Mandy.
I feel like you could have a little bit of a Billy and Mandy vibe in that. I mean, obviously, the Grim Reaper is not so comical, but you have Roach who is, and you could really play off that, man. There's something there. I
Some
feel that's
potential there.
yeah, that very is
Yeah,
pitchable
I
on
mean,
another
I
level.
think it kind of makes sense that there would be, because the book that I wrote, I was basing it off of the film genre. I wasn't. I did read a lot. I've read a lot of comics over the last 3 years. Kind of
There it is.
like really analyzing them. Okay, what do I like about this? Like, what did this book do well? What did this not do so well? Like, what can I extract from this? But the main focus, like the real idea, came from a film genre, like live action animated. So of course, I watched, Roger Rabbit over again, and live action animated genre films, and was trying to reverse engineer. So taking that and putting that in a comic rather than. Could it work? Yeah, it could. I mean, we live in an age now where, getting back to the special effects, anything's possible to relay believably on screen, right? Depending on how big your budget is.
It is amazing how technology has done that. And stop typing stuff. Just say it, Shiro. Now it's gonna like pop up on your screen and people aren't going to be part of it because they don't actually see your whole screen. And then you're like, why are words popping up? And then I have to I'm not gonna do anything. They'll just be there, y'all. I do enough editing, all right? And I got reels to cut. So yeah.
First of all, Hakuna your tatas. I just didn't want to interrupt Jono. The show I was talking about is out of Jimmy's head. The creator of Tree Fingers is Rich Koslowski, however it's pronounced.
Thank you.
Happy.
Out of Jimmy's head. Heard of that show?
Ahakuna Mahatata, plenty, all right? It's just at a very Tasmanian devil energy level, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, all right?
Your tatas are never Hakuna. Who the heck are you kidding? Exactly. So.
Ask a question, Shiro, while I set something up.
Love you too, bitch. Now, says here, favorite
Hey, this
fictional
is supposed to be PG. God.
Favorite fictional character now, Daffy Duck. Now, is that modern Daffy Duck or woohoo Daffy? Oh, you gotta love woohoo Daffy.
It's all the versions of Daffy, but especially the early version of Daffy when he's at his daffiest.
When he actually earned the title Daffy. Before Bugs Bunny showed up and Daffy got jealous.
Yeah. It was originally Porky Pig was the star, and then Daffy became a big rising star, and then Bugs Bunny came on the scene, who became a superstar. And then the cartoons played with that, Daffy's jealousy on Bugs Bunny's fame.
And Porky's just okay with it.
And Porky's just kind of like, yeah.
Like, it's fine.
But all the versions of Daffy, because Daffy's kind of the underdog. Like, he really does have a lot of talent, as much as Bugs Bunny. But he's just, I think the reason why I enjoy Daffy so much is he doesn't suppress what he wants. He's very vocal about it, and he wants the best because he thinks he deserves the best.
I love the confidence.
Yeah, he does have the confidence, but he doesn't always. He steps on a lot of people's toes and get it. Not always the nicest about it, and play so well with others. He's just a fun character to watch. those characters, and Bugs Bunny to an extent as well too. Characters that get to do things that you'd like to do, but you'd never get away with. Those are fun characters to watch.
I just want to know why you're trying to hang out with Howard the Duck. Because firstly, I but you're like, why not try? Like, dude, I feel like you picked the wrong duck to hang out with. Okay, and I say that
Hang out
because
with Daffy. Daffy doesn't exist.
I said fictional world. You said you wanted to go live
with
in. Wait, I said fictional world to live in. You said go live in Howard the Duck's world. That's Marvel.
Well, that's pretty much and that's pretty much the world. It's a mirror of the world today. Like Howard is us. He has this very objective view of humanity because he was forcefully and trapped in a world he never made. Right?
I mean, I'm just saying there's like, Magneto and Doctor Doom in the place where Howard the Duck is. Jonah, that's all I'm saying. All right. Like, you did not pick a place that was in any way safe. Sure, it might be cool to hang out with Howard the Duck until you realize you're not invulnerable and Juggernaut runs through you and he just kind of gets knocked to the side and you are flattened.
I mean, if Juggernaut's gonna run through me, and you better buy me dinner first.
Yeah. He's a Marvel character, but I always kind of imagined Howard in his kind of universe. But I guess if he's Marvel, then he's in the Marvel automatically.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that part with Magneto. Right, I guess I could have given that more thought.
Like, you spent so long.
One drawback.
It's because you spent so long writing paragraphs and paragraphs to other answers that you didn't give thought. Which, look, there's some phenomenal answers.
I was very selective.
Hey, for everybody out there watching, there's some phenomenal answers. Go check the Patreon to find out a great deal more about Jonah that we did not get into whatsoever. Right? Because what we're going to do now is let y'all know. One, right? Make sure you click that link in the description. Check out Roland T. Roach. Right? I got a chance to read it. It's a great story with a twist that I really wanted to get into. That Jonah was like, no. Right? And remember, right? In the comments, the first person to comment, what was the first R-rated comic book film? Right? It's not Blade. It's not. I promise you.
We gotta be specific.
Right?
First R-rated comic book film based on a Marvel comic.
Well, I assure you, that's the first R-rated comic book film ever, Jonah. Yeah, but it was based on a Marvel character. Just to give you all a little hint. But everybody says it's Blade. If you Google it, it will tell you it's Blade. I'm telling you, it's not Blade, right? We're gonna post this reel over on Instagram so y'all know.
I know what it is, but I'm not gonna say it because I don't.
Ooh, really? Well, now I got it. Now I got to do what I got to do next, right? So, beyond that, check it out. If you've enjoyed the quest, like I said, make sure to check out Jonah's work. And beyond that, what you can do is you can send him a big old dragon, right? Just a massive dragon to show up with a big old pot with stir fry in it. Warm that up right quick to sit down and have a marathon with Jonah of The Shawshank Redemption, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and The Mask.
Very different movies.
Right?
Two excellent movies.
Right? But imagine just chilling and watching him with a dragon while you ate the giant stir fry he just cooked you, man. How is that not a good time?
That's organic.
Like Pete's dragon? That kind of dragon? Or
It's a nice dragon, man. I don't know what dragon they're gonna find to send you. I told them to make it nice. They'll send whatever dragon they send. It'll just breathe fire and fly and bring you a big thing of stir fry. I don't know what everyone that watches.
that could be practical.
Yeah, I don't know what everyone watches this show is capable of, man. I hope that I'm not telling them to send you one like Hannibal sends at us on the Sundering. That's all, okay? Those are mean dragons. You don't want nothing to do with them. All right? That's just if you've enjoyed the quest, right? Now, for anybody out there that hasn't enjoyed this quest and is just annoyed with Jonah for some reason, again, why are you here? Why did you make it you're like an hour and 15 minutes into your life watching this, and you've been hate watching it that long, man. Please, as the man that like wants you to watch this, because I'm the dude that I'm the showrunner over here. We got a heck of a team. I'm like it benefits everyone over here if you watch this, and I'm telling you, don't hate watch it, please. There's so many better things you could do with your time than that. But if you did, right, and Jonah still just got you like, oh my god, Ryan, oh my god. What I want you to do, right, is I want you to get like,
I mean, if you've been hate watching it this whole time, I mean, who's the winner here, right? Because
Hey, views are
hey,
views.
well, here. I'm gonna, but look, Jonah, I'm gonna
hate it as much as you say you hate it.
Well, I'm gonna give them a
Otherwise,
special
you won't.
bonus. I'm gonna give them a special bonus, Jonah, if they do hate it, so they know what to do. Right? What you do is you find every mythical water-based creature you can: mermaids, Loch Ness monster, hydras, and all kinds of like. Throw in a megalodon. Why not? You know, some that are just extinct. A couple just real interesting things. You send them right to Jonah's way, right? To Oh, well, that's perfect. It's just all after they've just had huge fish dinners, just to show up, throw up on Jonah. Dude, I'm so sorry. Right? Right? As they sit and go, now we're going to eat our vomit in front of you and you're going to watch The Big Lebowski. And you won't have any other choice, Jonah. That's just what you're going to do, right?
Any other choice?
Besides,
Yeah,
because
that's my own personal hell right there.
you know, that's what we're just letting them know how to provide it if they've been hate watching for, around an hour and a half. Besides that, for everybody out there, I just want you to do 3 more things. 1, always give it that thumbs up. 2, always get your comic on. 3, have a good night, y'all.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it. The questionnaire. That is all.